What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe show, the home of Epic Conversations. And I'm the host of Epic Conversations.
Something's got to separate you from the rest. So you got to be willing to do whatever.
In my experience, Black men have struggles like having community with each other.
But she represents the mammy stereotype.
Now that was epic. I needed that. What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe show, the home of Epic Conversations, and I'm the host of Epic Conversations, 2018 Innovation Award winner, 2020 Best Podcast News Award winner given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. I also co-host and co-produce the only online show in the world for dads, fathers, and male caregivers that is sponsored by Dove Men Plus Care. And being part of that team, we have reached out directly and indirectly to over 400,000 dads, fathers, and male caregivers around the world. And as always, I'd like to say you're blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, and a solution for someone's problem. And another Dr. Vibe show coming up. It's here, right now, right here, right now. Man, I feel like, well, I'm not part of the CQ family yet. But that's a whole other conversation. But our friend who's coming on, she's part of the CQ family. Maybe she'll tell you about that. Here in Toronto, we finally had 2 days of somewhat sunshine. Amazing. Like all spring, I've been asking the powers that be, Mother Nature, can you give us 2 days of sunshine? We had probably 1.5 today, but I'll take it. The temperatures have been decent. But what's happening tonight, starting tomorrow? More rain. My goodness, the spring of 2025 has been rain and dreary, sometimes really coolish. Actually, was it earlier on this week or last week? My furnace came on. I'm going, this is May 2025 and my furnace is coming on? No, there's something's happening here. It's another old song, but you got to be like, that song was before my time, but I know that song. But we're just having a good time and we're just continuing the conversation, having another, well, this friend of the Dr. Vibe show and friend of Dr. Vibe, she's going to have to tell me how many years in a row she's been on during May. Usually when we have longtime friends, Lady G's. I don't want to call them OGs because when my mother raised me, said 2 things you never chat about with a lady: their age and their weight. So Lady G, this Lady G's been on for many years, but I should have looked up before we went live how many Mays she's been on. Maybe she's thinking in the green room herself. She's thinking about that. Maybe I'll cheat when during our conversation and find out what time it is or how many years it is. And she's a food lover like myself. We have to, before we get into our main conversation, we got to get into some food chat because I have to find a way of getting her and Dr. Tachi across the border. I don't know if they'll let them back, but we'll keep them. We'll keep Dr. Tachi. We'll keep her. We'll keep her son, Jordan. They have to come back, but I know Dr. Tachi says, I don't do winter. Dr. Tachi, I don't do winter. Neither there's our friend. We don't do winter. Well, we have to talk about some latest food things. I have to tell her too when she comes on. It's not an if. First thing she has to do is meet Carolyn Nicole. So if you don't know who Carolyn Nicole is, watch the Morning Vibe or go on the Dr. Vibe show and watch repeats. The second thing is there's so many food places. Just the other day, I'll keep quiet. We have to have a food chat because she's also the pseudo food truck owner. Maybe that's what her calling is, a food truck owner. She's a virtual food truck owner. That's what she is on top of all the other things that she does. She's a virtual food truck owner, but we'll get to virtual food truck owning, to Serena Wills, aka Divine Right, Lyme Disease Awareness in a few moments. We'll take a little bit of a break and we're going to have some fun, but there'll be some seriousness down too. We're going to have some serious conversation, but we got to get our food nourishment in. So we will be back in about, I'd say, 30 seconds. So we have Primetime Saturday with Aisha and Lala.
Will some of these places stand up and say, no, you can't come to our country? Because if they set that precedent, you might as well set the world on fire.
Right. He literally wrote an executive order defining what womanhood is.
This is the times that we live in now, y'all. You can either be mad about it and make yourself sick, or you can decide what you're going to do with your life and make it positive.
Check it out Saturday afternoons, 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific, primetime Saturday with Aisha and Lala. You saw them there. And the tagline for the show is trying to make sense out of the nonsense that's happening in America. Enough said. All right. So let's get some housework done. Subscribe to the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube and hit the notification button. Also follow me on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. If you'd like to advertise your business, product, or service on any of the platforms that I'm a part of, email me, dr.vibe at the drvibeshow.com. As I mentioned, this Lady G has been on the show for many Mays, and she'll tell, well, let's say Lyme Disease Awareness Month is May. That's why she's on. But more than that, she's just an amazing lady. So let's bring up to the stage Serena, Wills. I got to spell your name right. Get my name.
Hello. Yes.
What's going on?
Yes, my name is spelled right.
Yes. Just fun kicking it back. Okay. Now we got it.
There we go.
What's up?
How you
What's
been?
going on? Well, you know
I'm
what?
good. You had me doing some calculating after I told you math is not my jam, but
If I can find out for you if you want me to.
I figured it out because I
okay.
always remember the first time I was here was fall 2018 with Tara. So that's how I remember. It was the year I met Tara, which was I met her April 2018, and then we came on the Dr. Vibe show together. It was for Ovarian Cancer Awareness Month, so that's September 2018. So May 2019 was my first May here for Lyme Disease Awareness. So this was year 6.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
amazing. And look who's in the house. Dr. Tachi.
Hey,
What's going on?
Tachi. Hey.
What is up? Well, first of all, we chatted before we went live. How's your son?
My son's good. I feel like he's grown up with the Dr. Vibe show, and now he said, so I'm doing an interview with Dr. Vibe. He said, hey, Thomas, said, what's up?
Now, here's the young man that when you first came on would be in his room and peeking out of the room when you were finished. Now, what's up?
What's up? Yeah, so that's, he's a teenager, he'll be 14 in August.
Wow.
And like we were talking about it, Dr. Vibe, like he's going to 8th grade. Next year, this time we'll be talking about he's going to high school. Like just
wow.
So I even calculate the years I've been on the show, and I calculate when 2018 he was, what was he going into? He was in 1st grade.
You know more than me.
Yeah, he was in 1st grade because he was in 2nd grade when the pandemic hit. That's how I calculate.
That's your time. That's your timestamps.
That's my timestamp. Like, okay, March 2020, we were in 2nd grade and the pandemic hit, and I'm like, I'm home with a 2nd grader. Okay, and what are we going to do academically here? Okay.
Wow.
But at that time, it just, we got through it. But yeah, he's grown up with the show.
Hey, absolutely. So since Dr. Tachi is in the house, do not forget Indie Suit TV.
Yes.
Is an independent content creators platform powered by the aforementioned Dr. Tachi out of Fort Lauderdale, Florida.
Yep.
Excuse me, about 25 to 30 independent content creators.
Yeah.
I'm blessed to be one of them. I'm plus on the advisory board and getting up to 30,000 subscribers in about 14 months. We're
getting there. We're almost we're like 200 shy of 28,000. So,
wow.
Yeah, 30 is
it's no problem.
It's no problem.
It's no problem.
Zero
and she was loving the hair, Serena.
Thank you. Fresh twist just for you, Tachi. All right.
So I did my fresh twist this morning about 7:15. Fresh twist.
Gosh, I'm done with you.
Okay. You know. Well, before we get into it, how's the world of food? The other day, I
Mhm.
went to a restaurant I had been in years. It's about 15 minutes drive from me.
Mhm.
They had pepper shrimp.
Oh,
I know
wow.
are you're allergic to seafood, are you?
It's shellfish,
Shellfish.
and shrimp kind of falls in that. And what was sad was I was not allergic to shellfish until I became pregnant with Jordan, and it became an allergen, that and apples, of all things. Shellfish and apples. And they say some women, their hormones flip and their allergens flip, and sometimes it goes back, and mine never reversed back.
Wow.
So
That
my main was crab cakes. I loved crab cakes. I'm in the area. People are
yes,
our
yes.
area is full for crab,
Yes, crab cakes is big. It's big.
and I can't have them anymore.
What is a food thing you've had recently that you really have said, "Yeah, that's it."
Oh, let's see. Okay, wait. No, Mother's Day I didn't do anything special. I will say there's two places. Tachi knows of one. It's called Busboys and Poets, and
Oh,
it's actually the name of an establishment. It was they're now a chain of restaurants. Well, they're not just restaurants. That's an understatement. I'll never forget. He would be a great person. We could get Andy on your show. He's the founder of Busboys and Poets,
okay.
from the Middle East.
Oh,
Years and years ago, about almost 20 years ago, they told him, I think it was 20 years ago, that this idea would not fly. He wanted to have a restaurant and blend it with, he has every restaurant has a stage where you could perform
oh,
poetry, spoken word.
okay.
Each one has a bookstore, mini bookstore in there as well, and it encompasses so much. It's more than just, oh, let me go get something to eat. You're going to go, and it's an experience. So they're also really known for being very aware of dietary, whether you're vegan, gluten free, nut free, this, that, the third, you will get good food. So I love their catfish that they
Oh,
make a gluten free fried catfish. They mastered how to fry it
oh,
with the right, it's the right texture, it's the right
oh,
everything, with sauteed spinach. And I'm getting hungry for it.
oh,
And I always
geez.
tell them to double up on the sauteed spinach for
Oh,
me. And forgot what my other side was. So that's been the latest. And then they just opened up in the DC area. It's not unfamiliar to Washington DC, but in where I live at, it's called Founding Farmers,
okay.
and they're about, farm to table, and they literally opened one up down the block from where I live. I could walk there. So I've been waiting for it to die down, just to die down a bit. But yeah. Yep.
Wow. Love it.
Yep. It's
Love it.
been great. It's been
Cool.
great.
Well, I know the world wants us to talk about food, but we have to talk about something else.
Okay.
It's that Lyme disease. It's Lyme
Yeah.
Disease Awareness Month. You know what? Let's just start. Can you share your first experience with Lyme disease symptoms, and
Mm.
what was the initial stages like?
Yeah, I hope I'm not freezing.
No, you're
On
okay.
your end. Okay, good. We're just gonna blame the area I live in. I'm in the Washington DC area. All kinds of things.
I don't. Let's not even go any further. Let's stick on Lyme disease, please, and thank you.
We're not even gonna go there. So it's been quite the journey. September 2012. So this past September made 12 years exactly. So we're now at about 12 and a half years.
Wow.
Yeah, past 12 and a half years. Wow. I didn't know I was bitten by a tick. There's lots of content out there about the size of ticks. I remember one content creator, she took a Sharpie, like the pointed Sharpie, and just put a dot on her fingernail and said that's how small they could be. and mine was small and mimicked my. I have a beauty mark, as my mom used to call them, on my right arm. So there was one right next to my beauty mark, and I was like, oh, I didn't know I had two there, and I was like, no, there's something on my skin. And I went for a nature walk with coworkers. I don't typically do nature walks at all. And I just took it off. I didn't know it was a tick. And that was September 2012. About 2 weeks later, at the end of September, the first couple of symptoms I had was shortness of breath, a cough with shortness of breath. And mind you, at the time I was a marathon runner. So I would think I would know if I have asthma or respiratory issues. I had run 5 marathons by that time. I was training for number 6. So, and I had been running my whole life. Like I was track and field in high school, played basketball all through high school, college, alumni leagues after college. Never had breathing issues, never. And I remember taking an African dance class. Shout out to Koyaba Dance Company. Funny enough, me and Tachi have a whole story there. We had the same dance teachers once upon a time ago, but not the same time.
Okay.
So we both, she was like, oh, Mama so-and-so and this and that. I'm like, yeah, I took dance classes through, this place in DC. And I remember those dance classes are rigorous. West African dance classes are not for the light-hearted. They're not, I'm just going to get a light workout. There is no such thing as a light workout. And I remember those classes were an hour and a half long. And I could not get past the first 15, 20 minutes. I was out of breath.
Wow.
And I was like, what just happened? I've been dancing for years. And they were like, well, maybe you have a cold. I see, I keep having this cough. And I said, the weather is changing. It is ragweed season here in the DC area, which is like hay fever, just completely multiplied by 1,000. And I was like, I'll just go to the doctor, get checked out. And I felt fine for, a few days. I said, okay, well, maybe it was just a one-off. Maybe it was allergies. I went for a typical run. Now, for me at the time, a typical run was 6 miles. That was typical. 3 miles out, 3 miles back. And I had Jordan in the running stroller, and he was only 13 months old. And at mile 1, I was completely out of breath, like gasping for breath. And I have my son in the running stroller, and I'm outside. And I'm like, okay, I'm scared. God, what is happening to me? And runners were coming and stopping. Are you okay? Do you need assistance? I said, I just need to get back to my Jeep. I'm a mile away. So a couple of them, strangers, kindness of strangers, walked with me back to my SUV. And it was like this intermittent thing. Like by the time I got back, I was feeling okay. I was like, well, let me go to the doctor. And I told them I have this cough. I'm short of breath. And the first doctor, I got misdiagnosed twice in one round. Oh, well, you know what? Maybe you have asthma. And I was like, okay. And at that time, I forgot what the third symptom was. I was rolling in. Oh, yeah, fatigue. I was wiped out, tired. And they were like, oh, that's just probably stress. Everybody's stressed. Maybe it's a stress disorder or just so asthma and stress. Okay. And they were like, okay, we're going to also test you. That's when all the testing started. Maybe you need to go to an allergist and get tested. And you do the respiratory test and everything came back clean as a whistle. I passed every respiratory test. And I will say that was end of September. By the end of October, I had been misdiagnosed multiple times. I was in the ER twice and given inhalers, medications, and everybody was giving me some diagnosis that was wrong. I would take the test and it would be wrong. And that second time in the ER, that was the scary one where the heart palpitations, that was the symptom rolling in, and my heart rate wouldn't go down. And I was sweating bullets, and the paramedics came in my house at about 5 o'clock in the morning and had to take me away in a paramedic truck. And had to leave my son with a neighbor who I just met. And then, here to the rescue, we need to bring her on the show one time. Leah had just come back from overseas. I don't even know where she got this car. To this day, I don't even know whose car it was, but she had just gotten back to the DC area and she was texting me, "Where is Jordan? And where are you?" I said, "I'm in the hospital. Jordan is with my neighbor, my now new friend, Janice." And she said, "Well, I'm going to go check on him and I'm going to pick you up." I said, "Well, I'm not discharging." She said, "They're going to discharge you because I don't even know what this is. We're not keeping you there." So by that time, it was a snowball of symptoms rolling in. This was now only weeks after that weird bug I saw, still not knowing it was a tick. And not too long after that, maybe about 3 weeks after that incident, I went out sick for a day or two and ended up staying home for a month. I could not function. I couldn't go to work for a month. So it's like, okay, now I'm home with no pay, with a toddler, and I still don't know what's wrong with me. So that's the beginnings.
I just want to jump in and thank you for sharing that. Looking back, what do you wish you had known at the beginning of your Lyme disease journey?
Oh, there's so much, Dr. Vibe. I wish I would have known about ticks, because you always hear about people associate ticks a lot with pets and your dog, and get a tick and flea collar, and if you go in the deep woods, be careful of ticks, and not knowing what they look like, not knowing the size of them, that they could be so small that, because that's why I was thinking it was nothing. I was like, this thing was like a dot, like a little tiny circle on my arm, and pulled it off. And that was another thing I wish I would have known. You don't just pull it off. You want to make sure you look in. Some people have tweezers. Now I carry tweezers with me at all times because of this. Because sometimes you could pull them off and their legs are still embedded in your arm. So there's this thing about tweezers. There's a thing about burning. Sometimes people burn the ends of the tweezers they do all kinds of things. But I just wish I would have known that ticks are more than just your flea and tick collar. People talked about Lyme disease, but it was you don't hear about it. It does not get any airplay. It gets really zero attention. But just that, just the size of them and the damage it could cause. This little tiny bug can really just tear your body apart from the crown of your head to the soles of your feet and everything in between.
How has Lyme disease changed your daily life or routines?
I don't know how I'm going to feel from day to day. And sometimes when I wake up that day, I could feel fine. And then I don't know how I'm going to feel by the end of the day or midway through the day or 2 hours into the day. So it's a roll of the dice. You don't know from day to day how you're going to feel. And that's even the case now. I'm thankful that I feel a lot better. A lot of those symptoms have gone away. At the highest mark, I had 30-something symptoms. And, I've met some that have had more. It was about 34, 30, like in the mid-30s. Because my doctor, my integrative health doctor, said, "I want you to start tracking." When I finally met her, she said, "Track everything you feel, and we're going to look at what this is." And I started journaling, being the writer that I am, author. I'm like, oh, that's no problem with me. So I started journaling, and I went back, and that's the memoir I wrote. A lot of it was from my journals, plural. And I went back and I did actually a calendar. When my memoir comes out next year, you will see a calendar of events in the beginning of what I went through, the symptoms that were rolling in, still not knowing what this was. So from day to day, I don't know how I'm going to feel. When people invite me places, I would love to go. I had a cousin, he just got married a couple of years ago. And 2023, yeah. So last year, they were, oh, we're going to do our honeymoon, but we're inviting friends and family. We're going away to the Caribbean. And he told me it's a year out. And I was like, well, I'll see how I could feel. I have to really talk to my doctor because I have not gotten on a plane since 2010, actually. I can't fly.
Oh my
2010, 2011, I had gotten pregnant with Jordan. So that's why I didn't fly. And then when I had him, I said, okay, let's I want to book a trip with my son. And by the time I was going to book the trip, I got bitten by a tick. And the one thing it did was another symptom that rolled in. This was around November 2012. I didn't know what it was at the time, was inner ear disturbance. And my central nervous system was in flux. So when the inner ear is off and you're in an airplane, you're just asking for it. So we're still trying to figure out the how, because no doctor, no one can see your inner ear. But of course they're like, the disease infected, it can affect every membrane of your body. Okay. So if for some reason it infected my right ear, why the right, not the left, I don't know. We've done numbers of tests, and my left ear responds. It responds fine. My right ear does not. There's like tests where my right ear is like, what are you doing? It does not respond. So it gravely impacted my inner ear to the point where this is the one symptom I deal with every day, every single day. And it took a lot of physical therapy, a lot, to retrain the body to walk straight, even when you feel that you're out of balance 24/7. The only time I feel balance is when I'm laying down, I'm going to sleep at night. When I wake up, as soon as I start moving, I just feel like I'm always moving around, even if I'm not moving. But that's because the inner ear is off. So I can't fly. And then with my central nervous system still in flux a bit, in the shortness of breath, we're not chancing it. So I haven't been on a plane in umpteen years. And I used to travel like Africa, Nicaragua, Hawaii, you name it. Okay. I know I'm missing a couple I've been places, I've ran marathons in California and here and there. And I would fly sometimes 2-3 times a month for an old job I had. I was on a plane all the time. So to go from that to nothing. And also I can't run. I still can't run. I have not been able to run since September 2012. That still breaks my heart.
It's interesting. We've been doing this during a May every year, and every time we have this conversation, there's a new aspect that I did not know that you've shared, that you have shared with us. And there's some of the stuff that you've shared there I haven't been exposed to in our conversations.
Yeah. Like the flying piece, people are like, what do you mean? Like, so when you say, when I'm coming to Canada, the way I'm thinking is, how am I going to get there through either my car, or I could take the Amtrak as close as I can to the border and then rent a car and go across the border. So I have friends who, I went to Syracuse University, shout out to the orange and blue. So I'm like, okay, I have friends still in Syracuse. So they're like, well, come here, stay here for a couple of days, hang out with us. And then from here, drive to Canada. But, Canada is not just one little city. Okay.
No, like Canada's a little large.
So it's like, I'm only going to be able to get to whatever's across that bridge. Okay.
Yeah. I remember the last time I was in Syracuse was many years ago. I went to see some of the NCAA men's basketball tournament, and that's a good 8+ hours. Well, it's a few hours. It's not a simple drive. Like from where I am in Toronto to Buffalo, it's an hour and a half. Then it's at least 4 or 5 hours from Buffalo to Syracuse.
That's not a bad day. Yeah, it shouldn't take that long. So,
all right.
Anyway, so it's like I tell people, it's already like I have to think out the box, or I just can't go. I just can't go at all. It's and it's sad because I show my son all these pictures of all these places I've been, and back then it's when you got an actual plane ticket. You got like the ticket to board the plane, and like the places where it was overseas, I kept the the ticket stubs and like my passport is stamped, and it has not been stamped in umpteen years. You know, I have friends that live overseas that want me to come see them, and
Okay.
I can't see them. And that's part of there was a content creator last week, and I was like, yeah, that's something I want to talk about in the Dr. Vibe show. She said a lot of people with Lyme disease were grieving because we have lost something or things that we can't do anymore.
Yeah.
And every day we're not getting younger. Okay. So for some, I've met Lyme survivors who are in their 20s, and they said their whole childhood they were battling Lyme disease. They were the sick child. So they said we didn't go to class field trips. We couldn't eat this. We couldn't go here. We couldn't fly on planes. They said our whole, from the time we were children all the way through our teen years, early 20s, Lyme disease wiped us out. Now we're able to live. We're thriving. We're better, but we can never get our childhood back.
Yeah.
It's gone. Okay, so
Gotcha.
and, you know, same with, I mean, I just turned 50 this year. Shout out to the 50 Club. And I look back at because I was in my latter 30s when I was diagnosed. So I always tell people I lost my latter 30s and a good portion of my 40s. And I have not flown since my latter 30s. Okay, so and for some they're like, oh, you know, you shouldn't, you know, you should be grateful for what you do have. I am grateful, but I'm still grieving, as many those with Lyme disease are grieving. I have running shoes because thank God I could go out there and walk, but I have not been able to run since September 2012 because with inner ear disturbance, your head still feels like it's bobbing.
Yeah, absolutely.
All over the place, even when you stop running. So you don't want to feel chronic. I'm already chronically somewhat dizzy every day. I don't want to add fuel to the fire. And there's other things, you know, like my child was a toddler, and there were precious moments when he was a toddler going into the 4 and 5 and 6 years old, things that I missed out that I couldn't do as his mother because I was just too sick. I was too busy getting IV treatments every week or in doctor's offices or like one doctor told when I went there to see her, my integrative health doctor, I see her now once a year. She said, I remember Miss Wills, you were in my office twice a week at one point. Faithfully. You were here twice a week in IVs, getting checks, checkups, lab work done every week, Dr. Vibe. So there was a lot of time lost.
So Cass Lou says, blessed Tuesday. Thanks for sharing this.
Hey, so Cass.
I will make sure to share and encourage those I know that deal with this to view and listen.
Thank
she also
you.
says, I asked how she was doing. She goes, thanks. Yes, blessed and highly favored. Some clapping emojis, etc.
Hey.
Says, hey, Cass. And Cass Lou says, back to Dr. Chachi. Blessed Tuesday. Are there any moments or milestones in your journey that stand out as particularly challenging or inspiring?
Challenging or inspiring? Well, I will say the number one inspiring thing I did was I tell people getting sick really or something tragic or traumatic that happens to you, it's either going to push you over the ledge or it's going to push you into doing something you really need to do. And in my case, I needed to get my poetry and my writing published. And I remember when people thought I was crazy, not my team though, my editor and my graphic designer, I reached out to them that fall 2012 and I said, this might sound nuts. I am practically bedridden. I have not worked in a week or two. I'm, if I'm not asleep, I'm just sitting in a chair. Sometimes walking to the kitchen is just too tiring. I lived in an apartment. It wasn't like I'm in some big house. I said I had to do something, so I went to my writing. And I told them I have to publish my first poetry book because after that last hospital visit, if something were to happen to me tomorrow, I said I have zero legacy for my son. I was like, all my books are in a laptop. What good is that going to do anybody? Okay, what good is it going to do? Okay, and at that time, I had already lost my mom. She had been gone over 2 years. And I had wrote a lot of poetry at her bedside when she was sick with ovarian cancer. And that was still in my laptop. Tons of things were in my laptop. And they said, all right, how can we help you and where can we get started? And I always give them praises from my editor, to my friend David Rodriguez, where his artwork is on the book cover, to Stacy Luker. She was my graphic designer. And I'll never forget that New Year's Eve, going into 2013, I saw my book cover for the first time. She said, I wanted to send this to you so you could start your new year off on the right path. And it was my book cover. And I was like, oh my gosh, you did it. And by June, and this took time because I was very sick. So it was released June 14th, 2014. And so we're in the midst of the 10th anniversary year. Last June made 10 years. And I've been able to put out an audiobook for it, a revamped ebook, and the revamped paperback is coming out.
Wow.
By the end of June to celebrate the 10th anniversary. I have 10 new poems in my book. And from there, I published 3 more books. I have a total of 4 books published. And I said, I gotta do this because tomorrow's not promised. I got books in my laptop. I have a son where I would love him to say, you know what, this is my mom's writing. And
nice.
He still tells people, they're like, what does your mom do exactly? And he says, well, my mom has she does a few things. Okay. So he said, but her writing helps people feel better and heals people. And she talks to people. That's how he says, like, coach. She talks to people, which was another turning point that inspired me to become a health and wellness coach. He says she talks to people to help them with their lives.
That's true.
And I'm like, okay.
All right. You got your own agent. Cass, yeah, Cass Luce, congratulations.
Thank you.
I want to ask, what are the most important early warning signs of Lyme disease people should know about?
You know, like with just mine, it was a cough. And I'm thinking, oh, the weather's changing, it's allergy season. But that shortness of breath was scary. And I had doctors that took it too lightly. The allergist I met with, I wish I could remember her name. I would give her a shout out. She was like, I know your doctor sent you to me. So you're passing all my tests with flying colors, but yet you're getting worse. She said, I don't think you have asthma. She said, I think whatever this is causing respiratory distress. She said, but it is definitely not asthma. You ran marathons. I think you would know. She was with me. She said, you ran marathons. Okay. But she said, whatever this is beyond my scope of practice. And she said, I think you need like an internist or some sort of specialist, but we don't even know a specialist because we don't know what this is. And it was her, and it was an ER doctor I met. I actually gave him a shout out in my book because I remember him, Dr. Brown. And he said, I would love to have had you as a patient because he had a private practice. But he said, I'm literally retiring this week. I was like, are you serious? And he said, whatever you have, he said, it's really causing a disarray to he said, it's like an atomic bomb imploded in your immune system. That's the way he described what was happening to me. And I was like, okay. He said, whatever this is, we have to stop it before it causes more damage. He said, because your heart rate was off the charts when you came in here, but we were able to get it down. But can we stabilize it? And then, okay, now they sent me to a cardiologist, right? And then it was all these doctors, but it just snowballed. Like my symptoms snowballed so fast. And the one thing I pride myself in is I didn't just stick with one doctor and say, okay, I'm just going to stick with them until they figure it out. If I just didn't like the vibe or the energy they were giving me, I was like, on to the next one. I got to find out what's wrong with me. And to advocate for yourself, ask for those tests, ask for autoimmune disorder tests. And the first thing I tell people now is ask for that Lyme disease test. I didn't know that. To say, can y'all test me for Lyme? I didn't know to ask for that. And it took an integrative health doctor that I met the week of Thanksgiving in 2012 through my friend who said, "Hey, I met this doctor through Groupon." Groupon, okay.
Groupon. We going back now. We going back.
Wow. Yeah, we going back to the Groupon days. And she said, "Oh, she helped me tremendously. I know she could help you." She said, "Because I'm watching you post in the middle of the night on Facebook. Why are you up at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning?" I said, "Because I can't sleep." I said, this, whatever this is, it wakes me up without fail every morning at 4 a.m. I could go to sleep at midnight. I'm waking up at 4 and I can't go back to sleep." And she referred her to me. I called, her name is Dr. Mines, Mines, an integrative health doctor in Washington, D.C. I called her that Tuesday. Thanksgiving was that Thursday here in the United States. And she happened to pick up the phone. She said, "Oh, I'm picking up the phone because my front desk, they're at lunch." I said, "You pick up your own phone?" Because doctors don't do that. Okay, they don't. And I said, "My name is Serena Wills. My friend Renee, such and such, referred me. I don't know what's wrong with me. I feel like I'm dying on the inside. And I cannot die." Okay, I was like, I lost my sister. I lost my mom. I'm not supposed to be the next one.
Right.
I have a young son. My grandmother is crying every day. Every day. I don't know what to tell her, what to do. She said, "I just had a 3 o'clock cancellation. Can you get to me today?" And this was at like noon. And I was like, "I will be there." And I got to her and she said, "Okay, we're going to spend like an hour or two together." I was there for 4 hours. 4. And it was that day. She said, "I'm going to give you an IV infusion, a vitamin IV infusion." And she said, "I want you to do probiotics." I never heard of probiotics a day in my life. "I want you to do magnesium because you got to move." I'm not going to get graphic, but we got to move, get stuff out of your system. And she said, "Whatever's happening is neurological." Because I told her the left side of my body felt completely weak and I could not hold my son anymore with my left arm. I could only hold my son with my right arm. And I told her, even when I'm walking and everything, it just feels even like my left side of my face looked different than the right side. So she thought I had a stroke.
Oh. And
she was like, "Okay, we need to get an MRI of your brain." She was doing all these tests. So we're going into holiday week. So, she was like, "I don't think you had a stroke." She said, "I'm going to take all the notes of every doctor you've met with, and I'm going to read through them." And she did. She read through pages and pages of notes. I went away for Thanksgiving. I went to New York one more time to see my grandmother. Because I knew that would be my last trip for a while. And yeah, I didn't stop until I found the right doctor. And sure enough, she was the one that diagnosed me without a blood test. She said, "I think you have Lyme disease." She said, "We're going to get this MRI of your brain first." And then when the MRI came back, that was the 9th misdiagnosis that said highly likely for multiple sclerosis.
Oh my.
I was like, "Excuse you, multiple what?" And she said, she said, "I know it's hard to say calm down to you," but she said, "I want you to sit." At this time, I was standing, I was sweating bullets. I thought I was going to pass out. And she said, "I really think you have Lyme disease." And she said, Lyme disease is a very bizarre disease that is the great imitator. It mimics almost every illness on the planet. And she said, she said, "You have been through," so they tested you for ALS, lupus, this, that, the third. She was like, "Now we got MS, asthma." And she was like, "Pleurisy, this," and none of them are right. And she said, "I think you have Lyme. We're going to do a blood test," or quite a few tests. She actually did. And that following week, actually, it took some time because sometimes the Lyme test, depending on where you send it out to, it takes time. But that December, I think it was like 15th, I got the diagnosis and I was highly positive for Lyme disease.
Ooh.
Highly. Like the numbers were like, it was big, bold letters. It was big big bold numbers. And she said, I think, she said, no, I think I really knew. Now we have to figure out how to treat you. And because Lyme disease does not have a cookie cutter treatment.
100%. All right. Cash Lou says divine intervention and purpose.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
We're speaking with Serena Wills about Lyme disease awareness. And if you want to touch base with her, there's website, there's Divine Right Wellness, there's Instagram, there's so many others, but I thought those are the three key ones. Whatever platform you're watching this on, there's information's in the comments section. Want to ask, why is Lyme disease more common in certain regions or populations?
Well, Lyme disease it originated in Lyme, Connecticut. That's how it got its name.
Ah, okay.
So Lyme, Connecticut, there are multiple theories as to what happened in Lyme, Connecticut. There was a lab of some sorts. Because there are quite a few authors where I'm like, yeah, I believe that. What bug does this? And that could be a whole other story for another day. We could probably do a reading of a couple of books and come back and talk about how people believe. And there's more research coming out that these, there were ticks that got out that were used. Basically, they wanted to use them for bio warfare.
Right.
And they got out and then it spread. So it started so it's more prevalent in the Northeast of the United States, and it just spread. I got bitten by a tick in Washington, D.C. So I'm in the Mid-Atlantic region. There are some areas where people may say, "Oh, it's too cold," or "It's too this," or "It's too that." Ticks don't care. The colder regions, the colder climates, they go, most bugs or insects go into hibernation. But where you have spring, summer, fall, you're going to see the most ticks. But that was the origin, was Lyme, Connecticut. And that's why there's a really big population of us, here in the Northeast, Mid-Atlantic, etc. Now in other parts of the world, like for example, Africa, they don't I don't know if they're called ticks, but their ticks they're not from where our ticks are like mine. I brushed up against a bush and I got one. With parts of Africa, some of theirs come from underground. So it's almost like they mutated over the time into different things, and they could come from underground. And a lot of people in the regions, they were saying they're seeing, is this malaria or is this Lyme disease? It's this, and they don't call it Lyme disease. It's called, I believe, tick-borne fever or tick-borne something, but they come from underground. So if you're walking around barefoot, guess what? You could catch a tick because it's coming from underground.
Wow.
And unfortunately, a lot of children over there get it. So yeah, but the United States, I want to say, has probably the highest because it started here.
Right.
Canada's numbers are pretty low. But then again, it's hard to tell because Lyme disease is the great imitator. Right. So someone could be walking around there was a woman I met through a support group, kind of a support group. It's called the Healing Well, and they are a beautiful, it's a website that a couple of people founded. They cover multiple illnesses, diseases, autoimmune disorders. And someone said you should go there because you'll find your tribe, you'll find your community of people there. And that's how I found the Lyme disease community. I was able through them. I met my herbalists and nutritionists. I found them through other people as well. But yeah, it was through, through them. I'm like, okay, there was a woman I had met and she said, I was misdiagnosed with multiple sclerosis for over a decade.
Oh my goodness.
Over a decade. She had MS.
Oh my goodness.
I was like, what? Well, they said she had MS, right?
Right.
So she said I got even worse with the medications they were putting me on, the treatments. I got worse. And I went from walking to being wheelchair bound. And she said, I almost gave up hope when a doctor that she had seen said, you should get tested for Lyme disease. Like some other doctor she saw. She said, no, they said I have MS. She said, I know what they said you have. And I know your brain says something else, but you might you might have Lyme disease. And she went, got tested, highly positive for Lyme disease. It was between that, and then she went for, you get an MRI, because I get an MRI of my brain now used to be every 6 months to a year. And then it went to once a year. Now it was once every 2 years. And then my neurologist told me this past time, I could wait 3 to 5 years. So your brain is stable. So we like stable and quiet. So this woman went to go get her MRI of her brain. Now, mind you, she had what's called white matter, unspecified white matter. That's what I have in my brain. I have unspecified white matter and I have lesions to this day. And so a lot of people, they said thousands of people walking around and don't know that they have it. She went one time, Dr. Vibe, and the brain, her MRI was clear. They were like, is this someone else's brain we're looking at? Because she's had unspecified white matter. She's had this, she's had that. And now her brain, it's like it healed itself. It's completely clear. This is not MS. They're like, this is not multiple sclerosis. Okay. So she got the test and she was highly positive for Lyme, got the treatment. And she said within a year, she was out that wheelchair and she was back out walking. And it turned to hiking, and it turned to running, and it turned to traveling. And she got her life back. But she said, I lost over a decade of my life. I can't get back. So it's that grief. You can't get that back because they were pouring in medications and treatments that it was doing more harm than good because she didn't have multiple sclerosis. She had what's called neuroborrelias, neurolyme.
Are there any myths you'd like to debunk about Lyme disease with us? Oh, geez. I haven't heard that laugh from you a lot. So there we go. I touched on something good today.
Oh, gosh. It could be myths through the medical community. It could be myths that I went through personally where I have lost friends. And I'm not saying they passed away. I lost them because they just, well, you should do better. What do you mean you're broke? What do you mean you don't have any money? What do you mean this disease is costing so much? And what kind of insurance plan do you have? It should cover this. So all those myths I had to debunk. Oh yeah, I had some real raw ones. Like I said, first of all, I had savings. I had two retirements. Okay. 2 retirements. Wayne Harris would have loved me years ago. I had 2. Okay. 2 retirement funds, savings, was really, on the up and up, I was like, my goal was, okay, I have a son now. I want to buy a house eventually for us and do all of that and save for retirement, right? Depleted every account to the point where I had to put a loan on my SUV, take out payday loans.
Oh my gosh.
Just to pay the medical bills because insurance does not cover everything. They didn't want to cover my IV treatments. They didn't want to cover this. I remember the one time I got $1,000 bill for my MRI of my brain. And I was like, what is this? So I remember calling my insurance company in the hospital. I still can't tell you what happened. All I know is I got, they talked to my neurologist and the bill was cleared. And they said, this typically doesn't happen. $1,000 bill for one MRI. I was like, I get these once every 6 months. So you're telling me I'm going to keep getting $1,000, $2,000 bill. So the debunking of, get on doxycycline for 6 weeks. I almost said something. Menopause makes me want to curse sometimes. So sorry. Okay.
It's okay.
That's a bunch of bull. Some people, if you catch it early stages, it could do something for you. But for me, and it depends on what kind of tick bites you, because there's different kinds of ticks.
Right.
There's some where they could bite you in a matter of days. You're debilitated.
Right.
Forget doxycycline. That's not going to help you. And I now, here in the lovely United States, we're always fighting on the Senate floor, Congress, that we need more funding for research. We need more funding for treatments, and we need some sort of law to protect us from these insurance companies. Make these insurance companies cover more of our treatments. And because they just get away with highway robbery. Okay. And even to this day, my supplements are not covered. I have to use like an HSA or FSA account. That gets depleted quickly. But yeah, financially, there's lots of celebrities out there now. I'm so glad they're stepping forward and they're talking. And they're like, we have tons of money and we still have Lyme disease. Okay, so it's not the bankroll. Okay, we got it.
Yeah.
And we're still trying to figure it out.
Why are sometimes the Lyme disease lab tests unreliable or controversial?
Oh God. Yeah. So Lyme can hide in various parts of your body. It can hide in your brain, for example, and may not show up in your blood, your bloodstream. So if you get blood work done, you come back negative, but you still feel like this. Okay, well, it could be hiding in your muscles. It could be hiding in your brain. It could be hiding in, so it's not necessarily hitting the bloodstream. It's a very smart bacteria. It's almost like it knows how to duck and dive in your body. So that's one reason why there's not an accurate test. And then when it goes dormant, there's no cure for it. So people with, and I'm still striving for this. People that are in remission, they're symptom free. The blood work can never tell. It could still say negative, but the Lyme could just be dormant.
Right.
And there's no way to really tell. There was a research article I read where there was a guy, he unfortunately passed away, and he said in his will, I want y'all to do an autopsy on me. Like, I want y'all to use my body for medical research for Lyme disease.
Gotcha.
And sure enough, when they looked at his brain, he had evidence of Lyme disease in his brain still, even when he died. So that's why it's not showing up. And these, like I said, it's a smart bacteria. Like they create one test, or they said they're going to revise it, and it outdoes the test. So some doctors, they just diagnose you without the blood work. And they're like, you know what, based on where you've been, if you were hiking, you were this, you were laying in grass, you were that, you have these symptoms, I'm going to diagnose you with Lyme disease, and even the co-infections, which is a whole ball of wax in itself. There's multiple, I call them the cousins of Lyme disease, and none of them are cute or pretty. And for me, they said, not only do you have Lyme disease, we believe you have Bartonella and Babesia. And Babesia can cause shortness of breath and heightened anxiety, as well as Bartonella. And I was like, well, that explains a lot of my symptoms on top of the Lyme disease. So and those are hard sometimes because there's numerous variants of them. So you could test for Babesia and it comes back negative, but did you test for this type of Babesia or this type of Bartonella? You'd have to test for all of them, which costs a lot of money. Okay, so it's so yeah, there have been more and more doctors that are saying we're just going to treat for Bartonella across the board, or Babesia across the board, or Mycoplasma across the board, or the one I met a Lyme doctor during the pandemic, and I told her suddenly I couldn't eat red meat anymore in 2016, and she said, "Oh, it sounds like you got," she said, "maybe you got," she said, "I don't know why this," she says, "ringing to, it's just really talking to me," but she said the Lone Star tick. Yes, there's a tick called the Lone Star tick when it typically bites people, people are highly either allergic or they cannot eat red meat.
Got it.
And I told her literally, I said, well, that also too is just the red meat in this country. I said, that's a whole other conversation we could have. It's just how food is processed. But
Yeah.
when I went to Africa, able to eat red meat, no problem. Came back here, I was like, ooh, my stomach is feeling a certain way. Now before Lyme disease. So I haven't eaten red meat in 9 years. I have lots of restrictions. And yeah, I'm gluten-free, dairy-free, zero alcohol, low to no refined sugars, pretty much low to no. Really, I should do no processed foods, but if it is processed, it needs to be like if it's packaged, you know where it came from. Oh, they made it yesterday and they put it out on the shelf today. Not, oh, it's been in the freezer for 6 months and we're putting it out on the shelves and it's good for another 2 years. No, that's highly, so I can't do that kind of food with lots of sodium. So yeah, and you know, as I get older, things change, especially now with menopause. That's been a whole other ball of wax. And I'm like, this is a trip in itself. So
I hear you.
Yeah.
So can you talk about the range of treatments available, traditional and alternative?
Yeah, there's a huge range. Medically, there's lots of antibiotics out there. And like for me, we tried the antibiotic route first to see if that would help. We tried doxycycline. I kid you not, it gave me panic attacks. I tried Biaxin, Rocephin, all these other meds, and both not just the capsules, but I also tried them through IVs, IV Rocephin. It did way too much damage. I had all the adverse reactions. If you have this reaction, go to your nearest ER. I was having those reactions. So there's a lot of antibiotics out there. And some people who have Lyme disease have been able to do it and feel better. But more so I'm hearing from those who are like, I did antibiotics, but I also had to blend in herbal treatments. Or I had to do holistic, or I had to do custom compound. One of my medications was customly compounded, and it's called low dose naltrexone, and it's 4.5 milligrams. And actually, my neurologist prescribed that. He was great. I say was because he now is like the chair of neurology of a hospital, so he can't see patients like me. I'm actually like doing a lot better. It's great news, but the bad news is I lost him as a neurologist. He only kept like his critical patients. I said, well, I'll take the roll off as a good sign. Okay. But yeah, I do lots of herbals. I still do supplements to this day. I do ashwagandha that helps out with a lot of, cortisol levels, anxiety, just keeping things balanced. It really helps with the central nervous system. I'm looking at my table because I have essential oils. That could be a whole show itself. My treatments were, like I said, we had to stop the medications, and I had to start with. I started with more holistic and more naturopathic treatments. I did 14 months of IV treatments, and that consists of vitamin IV infusions and also peroxide, food grade peroxide infusions. I did the infrared sauna, which is powerful, not just a sauna, it's an infrared sauna.
Okay.
And that's a difference. People need to know the difference. Infrared sauna really gets to the core of your body. It surpasses what a sauna can do. And it helps to really detoxify the body. I did colon hydrotherapy. I do ionic foot baths, which is, basically you're detoxing your body through your feet. The bottom of your pores on your feet have lots of lots of pores in the bottom of your feet. So the treatments were vast, and it, like folks like me who have chronic Lyme disease, our bodies have kind of plateaued, and we're trying to figure out what is going to kind of shock the body without too much shock, or what has not been addressed yet that we need to address. That there might be something hidden, which is my next adventure. I found a Lyme disease specialist in this pandemic. The one thing I tell people, this pandemic really brought a lot of blessings. We had to quiet down, and he offered free weekly Zooms on how to learn how to detoxify, how to boost your immune system, all kinds of things. And he just did out the kindness of heart for free. And knowing that a great deal of people who were on there, he may never meet personally, because he's actually here in the Washington, D.C. area. So I talked to him at length, and there's a whole Lyme disease research park in Frederick, Maryland, which is it's like 45 minutes from me. And they do some out the box stuff. That's what with people with chronic Lyme disease like myself, we need out the box. Point. And you have to think out the box. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go prayerfully by this fall. Again, it's a cost with it. So otherwise I would have saw him 2 months ago, but, doing just different scans and tests. Cause I told him there's certain symptoms that never went away, and it's like, they don't want to go. It's like they're like, oh, we're comfortable just where we are inside Serena's body. And I want to give them their eviction notice once and for all. Okay. And just don't come back. There's no.
Got it.
So that's the next, but that as a whole, you really have to think, out the box in order to go to certain Lyme doctors or Lyme specialists. If you don't, some people may just stay in that chronic condition.
Right. Inspired Thought says, amen, sis. It's all true that you lose friends because they don't understand how illness depletes your finances, especially when you don't have a physical disability they can see.
Yes. It's an invisible disease, because people say, wow, Serena, you look great. Or wow, you look like this. And I'm like, thank you for the compliments. I appreciate that. And sometimes my grandmother always taught me, just because you might feel like something one way doesn't mean you have to look it. And she always taught me to look your best for you. And I tell people sometimes I could be having the worst of worst days, but people can't tell behind the smile and how I look, because now I look good. Before I looked sick. So everybody said, oh, she looks sick, she must be sick. But I've gained my weight back, because at one point I gained like 30. I lost 30 something pounds.
Oh,
in a matter of it was very quickly, like 3 to 4 months. I lost 30 something pounds. I couldn't fit my clothes.
Whoa.
And when you lose it that fast, and because of illness, I was like, this is not me. And there were people that met me when I was sick, when I started feeling well. They were like, oh, this is how you look. And I was like, yeah, my skin color came back. My weight came back. I'm able to do some light workouts. I can't fully African dance the way I used to, which hurts my heart too. My mom was a professional West African dancer. And when I finally got into it, I feel like maybe if I would have started earlier in life, but it was okay. But my goal is I want to get back on the dance floor and be able to go through a whole dance class without problem.
100%.
But yeah, people just don't. They're like, oh, she looks great. She's, driving around. She's going to shows. But people just don't know. Every day I wake up and I deal with a symptom that won't quit. And I say, okay, I'm feeling off balance, saying some days a little bit more than others, but I got to go. I got to go out there. I got to walk. I got to drive. I got to, I can't be afraid of the world. So yeah.
I don't want to take up too much more of your time because you've had a long day.
Hey, it's but it's funny, Dr. Vibe, when you do what you love to do, it's not really work. And I'm glad I could say that. When Lyme disease started, I hated my job. I was in a job, and I didn't hate the people, great people, but very poor management. And it made me worse. Okay, when you're in a toxic environment,
Sure,
it's going to make you worse. So hate's a strong word. My mother would say that. It was,
Mama don't like that. Mama don't like you saying that. No.
I just liked how I was the management. And so I met some wonderful people from that job. But I was like, I have to get into something that God placed me on this earth to do all the time. It can't be part-time, some of the time. So it's been a long day. Like, I'm going to not grade one more student after I get off here. I'm done. And
I got to push you guys away from all this marking stuff. So I hear you.
Yeah.
I feel you.
Yeah, I'm done. I'm like, I'll grade them tomorrow. My students would appreciate that. Yeah, grade us with fresh eyes. I'm going to grade y'all with fresh eyes.
I like that.
Yeah, you got to know when to stop and to take care of yourself.
I won't go too much longer. 2 or 3 more quick conversation pieces. What are the biggest hurdles in raising awareness about Lyme disease? For people to really, as a health and wellness coach, as a teacher, instructor in a grad school of health and wellness, the next generation of coaches, we're teaching them how to actively listen. And I was like, someone could be talking about the greatest thing on earth, and are you actively listening? Or are you just hearing them? And that's part of the challenge. People hear us, but they're not deeply listening to us. And sometimes they don't listen until it happens to them or someone in their circle or someone very close. And I will say the ones on that Senate floor and the Congress that are fighting for us, they all have a story to tell, because they've been personally impacted, whether it was a loved one, a family member, or they themselves had Lyme disease, will have it. And they're the ones fighting for us, but it's not enough of them, because the rest of them are not actively listening. Or they think, oh, this is just maybe a few, it'll go away. It's not going away. More and more people every year are getting infected by Lyme disease, and more people keep getting misdiagnosed. So that's the greatest challenge, and it's sad, but getting your loved ones sometimes to understand. I had great difficulty with some, friends and relatives. Some of them, I think it just hurt them so much to see me so sick so fast. Right.
But some just didn't know what to do, and they just turned their backs on me. But then they want to be your friend afterward. No, I don't want to be your friend. Okay. So, but those who, even like you were saying, every time I talk to them, they learn something different. And I told them, when my book comes out, you're going to learn a whole lot.
There you go.
I was like, because that traces from 2012. I had to cut it off. And shout out to Nicole
Waldron.
Yes, she's the one where I reached out to her. I was like, Nicole, I'm having a problem. I'm having a challenge here. And some guy told me to reach out to you. This Lyme disease book could just go and go and go. I'm already at almost 300 pages. I was like, where should I start?
Volume 2, Volume 1, Volume 2.
She says, Serena, you got to cut it off where the pandemic starts. That's your ending point for this book, because the pandemic is a whole book in itself.
Okay.
And I was like, all right, Nicole. So I literally took chapters out of this book and put them into now book 2. So there's going to be a book 2. There's book 1. I'm looking at part of the draft next to me. And at first I thought it was going to be published by the end of this year, but that's not going to happen, because the one thing I have to do is read from the beginning all the way through and flush it out. And it is highly emotional. Like it brings me to because I'm reliving all those moments again when I'm reading my own book. And I'm like, I went through that. I'm like, okay, like it's I'm amazed at what I went through, and I talk about a couple other friends in here where what they went through, and how I was a single mother at that, not just a mom, but a single mom going through all of this. And like the chapter I'm looking at next to me is called God, Why Me? And it's that chapter really pulled at my heartstrings. I was like, because I asked God that a lot. I was like, God, really, why? Okay, have I not lost enough? And I would really have those conversations with him.
All right.
Yeah.
Let me pull up another conversation piece, because again, we can have part two, part
I
3.
know. I'll have to come back soon.
Yeah, yeah. Do you hope for a vaccine or better diagnostic tools in the near future?
You know what's funny, Dr. Vibe? We had a vaccine years ago. Yeah. There was a Lyme vaccine, and they took it off the market because, and then there was a whole, like when COVID hit, are we going to bring back the Lyme vaccine? No, we're making all these vaccines. Do we put this back out again? There was no telling if you got the Lyme vaccine, was it going to stick? Were you not going to get Lyme disease? Would you get it, but it won't be so bad? When will it wear off? And then they government here said they took it off the market because there wasn't that, and there wasn't enough demand. Well, if people don't know that there is a Lyme vaccine,
Yeah.
like if you take your children to get their immunizations and vaccines, one of them should be, oh, you can get the Lyme vaccine, especially since so many children get infected with Lyme disease. So there was a vaccine once upon a time ago, and they took it off the shelves many years ago. I don't know if I wish for that, because it would really need to be proven that it's going to work, that it's going to like stop whatever in its tracks and demolish it. Like soon as that tick bite takes place, so you don't have to ever endure a symptom, or if you have a symptom, it'll be early on and it'll be at bay. I do pray every day for a cure. I do pray for more accurate tests. I pray for that, because so many more people would know I have Lyme, or I have Babesia, or I have this, and that the tests are covered by insurance, because there's a lot of tests out there that insurance won't cover, and it costs several $100, $800, $1,000. You're getting a whole panel of things done, but it costs money. So that's my hope, and my hope would be, because we're still losing people to Lyme disease. You can die from this. And I tell people, and it's in my book, with that heart rate as high as it was, that was like, okay, like the doctor said, if we couldn't get your heart rate down, it was going to be another conversation we were going to have with your family. And I was like, wow. And then later on, with adverse reactions to stuff, I really felt death knocking at my door. That's a whole chapter in itself, when death knocks at your door. What does that feel like? What does it look like? I met a fellow Lyme warrior, and I remember we embraced and hugged, and she said, yeah, I flatlined on the table and I came back to life. And she said, I knew from then, when I get better, I want to help with Lyme disease research. And she's working with a Lyme doctor, like working in the office. And the doctor would say, oh, you could talk to my assistant because she has Lyme disease, and she flatlined from it. She died. And thank goodness they were able to bring her back. So I just want more treatments and more accurate testing. And of course, with everything, whether it's cancer, Lyme disease, you name it, a cure. And we need more funding. We need more money to back us, grants, so people don't have to go broke and deplete retirement accounts, savings, selling homes. I've met people that sold their homes, okay, to say, I'm going to sell it, go live in an apartment so I could pay for my medical bills. People, we shouldn't have to be doing this.
Okay, two more quick things before we let you go. First of all, because there's a whole other pile of things I think we need to do a part 2 sooner rather than later. Because
Yeah. Yeah.
What support groups, organizations, or online resources have you found most helpful?
Oh my gosh. The Healing Well, and they are global. You don't have to live here in the United States. It's global. There's the Global Lyme Disease Alliance. They're really great. They really love to do a lot of research and put it out there in surveys. They were the ones that did a survey about COVID. Is it COVID or is it Lyme? And then COVID was, of course, getting a lot of attention, which it should. And people were now it's a whole other conversation. They were being approved for disability with COVID, but people with Lyme disease can't get disability. So that was a whole other ball of wax. Then there's LDA, Lyme Disease Association. And then there's a ton of doctors. I talked about my doctor, Dr. Mines, Mines. She's in Washington, D.C. There's Dr. Rawls, Rawls. There's Greg Lee. He's out of he's in Frederick, Maryland. And they not only treat, but they put out information, which is what I love about them. They're trying to get the word out. They're advocating. They're educating. There's another one. He's in the West Coast. He's up by Quebec almost. Marty Ross, Dr. Marty Ross.
Quebec is not West. Quebec is East.
Well, where I'm at. Okay, so he's West. All right, so he's out.
Okay, no problem. I'm gonna ask.
Anyway.
I'm going to ask, when I put this up for replay, between now and then, would you be able to provide me a list of resources?
Oh, yeah, because I have them.
Great.
It's so funny. My Lyme disease, my memoir, I actually have a resource part in the book. I could just extract it and paste it and send it to you.
100%. I would love that.
Yeah.
So last conversation piece.
I always get Quebec mixed up. Why I want to put them in the West? You know what it is, Dr. Vibe? Because here in the United States, they're teaching our children wrong. They have this weird way of putting the map, and they always put it together and it's out west. And I'm like, put it exactly where it's supposed to be. Okay, it's not on the west. So when I think of it, I'm like, I'm going to the global map that I grew up on. And I'm like, no, I need to look at the globe and be like, no, it's here. This is why they need to teach these kids, where stuff is. Okay.
Another conversation. So finally, to close out, how can listeners support someone they know with Lyme disease?
There's a couple of ways. You can support just by being a listening ear, being a shoulder to cry on. I remember I have one friend of mine, she was a close friend, and her words it was years ago, Dr. Vibe, when she said, I can't handle your situation anymore. And it went through my heart. I'm like, I don't want to handle my situation, and our friendship really fell apart. Some friends are going to be there with you the whole way, and some friends are not. So if you are that friend that needs to bow out graciously, and don't hurt the person with Lyme disease. They didn't ask for this. They did not. So just be a support. If you could be a financial support, fantastic, but don't be a financial help and then go back and remind them that you helped them. It's a gift. It's a present. You're not supposed to bring it back up. And if you're resentful of it, then don't help financially. Just don't. But yeah, being that good listening ear. And if you know any resources, like my friend who in the middle of the night said, you need to go see my doctor who I met through Groupon, and I think she's going to help you. Done. That was her. And who knew? And I told her, you probably saved my life by referring me to that doctor. It could be as simple as that. So, but yeah, listen to your loved ones, meet them where they are. Don't get mad when they can't go out. If they're tired, not feeling well, if they have kids, hey, can I watch your kid? I have friends come over and they would watch Jordan for me for a few hours, an hour or two, a few. So there's just all different ways. But if you just aren't that person, if you're not empathetic, sympathetic, compassionate at all, then just don't be around people with Lyme disease. We need compassion and empathy at the highest level. And some people just don't have it because they have their own trauma that they're trying to deal with, and they just won't tackle. So they can't help you tackle yours if they haven't even tackled their own.
Well, on that note, we're gonna call it a wrap. I don't think we don't need to wait till next May. I think we need to do it sooner than next May.
Yeah, we should do something this summer. Let's
actually that's the best time, because right in the summertime especially would be a good follow-up for this. And I had made a mistake in the so you can get a hold of Serena at her website, serenawills.com. Divine Right Wellness is Divine Right, and that's WRYTE.
Yes.
And Instagram at Divine Right, again, WRYTE. And a few final comments. Yes, from the family. Cass Lou, clap emojis.
Oh, thank you, Sora Cass. Thank you, Sora Tachi.
Cass Lou says 100. And of course, Dr. Tachi has to lay it down. Insurance is a scam. So, Dr. Tachi.
You should come on here with me this summer, Dr. Tachi. We could talk about it, because I'm
up for it. I'm up for it.
I think I still have old medical bills. I would keep them in my Bible.
I would love to see that.
I still have old bills. I'm like, I still have this bill from 20 so and so. And I'm looking at the cost of the bill because insurance wouldn't cover it. And it's like, you see how much they would cover and you saw how much they would not cover. I'm like, well, why am I even giving y'all all this money per month? And
gotcha.
Yeah.
On that note, a long day has now ended for you. Please and thank you. Get some rest and we will chat. So as always,
we'll do.
Don't just manage your time, manage your energy. Remember to give yourself grace.
Thank you. Many blessings.
Right back at you. We're going to get you to Canada sooner or later. Be well. All right, family. We are done. Serena's done. What an epic conversation. Love it. Love it. And she will be on before next May, by the way. Thank you very much. So let's wrap it up. I think it's time to wrap it up. It's been a long day for everybody here. So let's do this. Subscribe to the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube and hit the notification button. Like the Dr. Vibe Show on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. To advertise your business, product, or service on any of the platforms I'm a part of, email me dr.vibe@vibeshow.com. You can catch me on my website, thedrvibeshow.com, YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn, The Dr. Vibe Show. Instagram at thedrvibeshow, X at drvibeshow, and email dr.vibe@thedrvibeshow.com. You can also catch me on Substack. I broadcast live on there. I have just realized now the replays I have to put up manually. So you can catch me on Substack live and soon replays to dr.vibe@substack.com/subscribe and Blue Sky at drvibe.bsky social. And you can watch replays of this epic conversation on the Dr. Vibe Show, YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn, and on the Dr. Vibe Show website. Got one more comment here, two more here. We got Cass Lou, claps. Dr. Tachi, great show. Well, you all made it a great show. So let's kick it off at the end with this. Live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get small to get stronger. Block assumptions. Then aim bigger, aim better, aim higher, aim wider. Love, faith, and respect. Remember, don't just manage your time, manage your energy. Remember to give yourself grace. And if you're not making money, make history. Try to do both and make it better. God bless. Peace well. Keep the faith. Walk good. And we'll catch you soon. Wow.
Yep.
I feel like I'm in class with Dr. Alicia. That's a class I wouldn't skip. There's some other ones I'd like to skip, but I'm glad I'm not skipping this class tonight. So I'm hoping you're catching this live, but if not, certainly catch it on the replay because this is good stuff that Joe is laying down here. Get ready. When I saw this today, I said one word, "Hiya!"
Did you really?
No, I felt like it's an incredible document that I'm going to suggest that you take and use as a lecture piece wherever you want to go.